Hello.
All right, it's showtime. We are live. Oh, we've already got some people here. I see Keeper Kane. Kane made it. You know what, Kane? While we are getting started, I'm going to jump into. I know you're using. Oh, wow. It brought me up on my ear. There we go. Let's see. Add moderator. Since you're using Keeper Kane, I think I have to do it while the live stream's going. I looked at whether or not I could do it beforehand, and I didn't see the option. But yeah, people be rolling in here shortly now that everything's starting to get sent out.
I'm trying to get my windows up so I can see the chat.
Now, there is a way to bring it up in StreamYard, but it is faster if you're just on YouTube for the chat.
Yeah, I usually put it up like above me. Okay.
Nice.
Where are
Thanks, Kane. Kane says audio is good. I was in the process of telling Sean kind of how we do the live stream, and I hit the button for the countdown. And I forgot that when you do that, it mutes everybody. So I was no longer talking. There goes the dog. Just like last week, my daughter had practice.
Just like last week, my daughter had.
Oh, that's my dog.
I thought, oh, it was me. Can you hear her?
Yeah, just a little bit.
Just a little bit. She's not in the house yet. She's still outside. She's been at cheerleading practice, and so she always comes in all pumped up, hyped up.
That's handy.
Yeah. Yeah, at 8:30. It's a lot of fun. All right. Let me see. Let me make sure that the word went out over on. Yeah. Hey, I see pecktec in the chat. What a night.
Woohoo.
Woohoo. This is the fun moment. Like, I feel like I need to start the live stream 2 or 3 minutes early just to allow time for people to start coming in. I don't know what the etiquette is on that.
Oh, I think that's fine to do.
Yeah, I usually hop in a live stream a few minutes after it started. I rarely am there when they first start. The last night, Bob Steenfott had Corey McElroy from Aquarium Co-op on his live stream, and I jumped in early before it started, and I was like, all right, I'm here and ready for this. And then I had to go do something, and I was 20 minutes late for the beginning of it. And so he read my comment, and I was like, well, I wasn't really here. See Diane in the chat. Hello, Diane.
Okay. It's so funny. Like, I use the Windows all day long, but I have a Mac at home. I'll have only Macs at home.
Yep, me too. Same thing. That
for some
command
reason,
button and the control button.
I'm just trying to get two different browsers to work at the same time, and it's like, for some reason, it's impossible. Okay.
Yeah,
I've pretty much Safari up there and Chrome down here.
That's what I'm doing. I've pretty much moved to Chrome for the most part now, since Safari's not working with a lot of stuff.
My favorite browser is Opera.
I've never used that one.
And it's a Chromium browser, so it's like Chrome is. I'm going to get a little table. I'll be right back.
Okay. Hey, everyone. How's it going? We're getting set up. We'll be ready to go here in just a moment. I am going to start doing things a little bit earlier, I think, so that that notification goes out sooner.
Okay.
All right. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get started with everything. We've had a few minutes and the family made it in, so maybe there won't be as much going on around me now. I need to start going in and editing out the beginning of them. I'm sure I can do that.
I did that for a while too. I made a few live streams, and that's what I would always talk for like the first 10 or 15 minutes, just trying to keep up with the chat.
Yeah.
Because my big thing is I can't, and the reason I don't do live streams like my own live stream, I appear on other people's stuff, every now and then if they ask, but I don't do my own because I can't keep up with what people are saying in the chat and concentrate on any sort of subject. So when I do it, I ignore the chat. And early on, I didn't have enough moderators.
Right.
So every now and then somebody would just go ham, just saying the most offensive things possible in the chat. And then when I go to look, it's all like, "Why aren't you kicking him out?" And I was like, "I didn't see it. I ignored it."
Yeah.
So
it's a real skill for sure. I have watched live streams for a number of years now on YouTube, and I've never really realized how much skill it takes to have a conversation and to keep up with the chat, especially once you get 15, even 20 people. I mean, some of those live streams will have over 100. It's just nuts.
yes, and people can be quite talkative, and they tend to go off like they're not asking us questions necessarily. They'll just have another whole conversation going while they listen to us droll on in the background. So
I'm real bad about that. I'm one of those chatty people during a live stream that I'm carrying on conversations with other people.
oh man, I do that too, and but it's funny. Like, so if you've got somebody really for a live stream, so I've been watching Ed. I like Chattanooga Ed and James from Fish Room Fever. They're buddies of mine. They've been over here a dozen times, and so occasionally, if I'm painting, I tend to paint on Thursday night when they go live, and so I'll have them on, especially Ed. Like I'm painting usually late, and I don't watch anything, but I like to hear people talking, I guess, so I don't feel so alone. To be real pitiful.
I understand that. Yeah.
But so I'll listen to them and stuff because they're buddies, and just kind of listen to them talk, and every now and then I'll chime in or something. But it's funny. It's so little of it's about fish.
It's true. And it's kind of like the hobby is what brought everybody together, but the live streams are just about everything. And a lot of times it's just conversations, people catching up. We've got Red Laser in the chat. Hey, Red Laser. Oh yeah, I keep forgetting. I can do this. I can throw that up there. Let everybody else see it.
That's pretty neat.
It is neat.
I need a StreamYard lesson, I think. From
so we did. I went on Susan for SLC Aquatics live stream. That's kind of how I had no intentions of doing live streams. And she invited me to come on and do an interview, just kind of introduce my channel and everything. I was like, yeah, that sounds like fun. And I had such a good time. I was like, oh, I got to do this. And so me and Tanner got to talking about it, and I was like, let's try it out tonight. Let's get on, play around with it, see what happens. I said, I'll go ahead and throw it up, let it go live. I don't care. It's a new channel. What's the worst that could happen? And we had like 12 people come in that night. And we had a good time. I think we went longer than any live stream we've done since. And it was really just me. I mean, I was just clicking around, trying things. But it was a lot of fun. And that's what I enjoy about this community. Everybody's so open to people getting involved and playing around, messing around. And, Ed started doing I don't remember what he calls it, but where he does the your favorite fish or something, and he's bringing other people on. And that's been real fun. I like that, just experimenting. That's what I've been doing with my channel. And Killer Kitty is here, and Skull Aquatics. Silver Creek's made it back. He says, sorry, Rico stole my attention. Well, you said you needed something to keep your attention early on in the chat. I saw that. So Tanner's not here this week. What's funny is I decided to invite Sean. So this is Sean with pecktec. And I invited Sean to, all of you know that. I know all of you know that, but I still have to introduce him.
Somebody,
If anyone's found my channel, they know your channel.
you'd think that, but that's not necessarily the case. I mean, internet's a huge place, so who knows?
It is true. Dennis, welcome to the chat. New local Austin. Good to see you. And yes, I agree. Susan is the sweetest. And I was there doing dishes, lurking while her husband came on. So he came on for a little bit. That was cool. And let's see. All right. So just like we said earlier, it's hard to keep up with the chat and have a conversation. So I've completely lost where I was going. But
we're going to talk about dirt stuff.
We're going to talk about dirt. Dirt's fun. But yeah, I talked to Sean about coming on. You just did this at our local meeting, pretty much. You did aquascaping, and you got a lot of that was talking about the substrate that you would use. And Tanner and I had already said we were going to do substrate this week, me not thinking he wasn't going to be available. And I was like, let's invite Sean to come on. So I invited you, and then Tanner's like, yeah, I won't be there. So that works out perfect. So this does work out perfect because we'll just swap out. He'll be back next week. Hopefully he may decide never come back. I see the Zen Ginger. Hello, Zen Ginger. And hey, Stephen P. Forcing children to draw fish for tomorrow. That sounds like fun. Oh, the chat moves on me when I go to click on stuff, and then it grabs the person that is below the person.
Oh, is that how that works?
Yeah. So I go to click on it, and I'm not fast enough, and the chat moves, and then it throws up. I was not going to put that one up there.
Hi, Regina.
Yeah. So hi, Regina. Nice to have you.
That's a really cool avatar.
It is.
We should just judge people by their avatars. What is that?
Yes.
Oh, it looks like a succubus. If I had to guess.
Now, before I forget, because I forgot last week, allow me a moment to thank the moderators. They do the real work here, making sure everybody stays in line, and I appreciate every one of them. The Zen Ginger is here, and Keeper Kane is here, also a moderator. So thank you both. And anyone else who's here that I didn't notice. But we are going to talk about dirt. We're going to talk about substrate. And for anyone who's maybe not been in the live stream, because we are actually trending higher than we normally do already. For anyone who hasn't been to one of the live streams, like Sean, Sean and I are going to talk first. I've got some pictures and stuff to throw up as we talk about our favorite substrate. And then after that, which will take about 45 minutes, 30 minutes, something like that. After that, we'll jump into the chat and talk about your favorite substrates, the ones that aren't in line with ours. However, I'm
just going to say all of them. So
yeah, you sent me like a list. I was like, but I know what you were doing. I saw it. I pulled up the meeting and went through there and made sure I had it in the order that you put them in the tank.
Okay.
Or at least I tried to. We'll see if it worked, because I don't get that fancy with mine. Stephen P, for what the fish is McStreamy Scruffy? I don't know. Regina Phalanges is here. Need to replace my soil substrate in a 2-year-old tank. It's mud. Yeah, that will happen.
I like
that's what reference. Me too. I've always laughed at that. I was huge.
My daughter
Friends fan.
Yeah, my daughter would appreciate that quite a bit.
Yeah. My first job, I know you'll appreciate this. My first job was at a movie theater, not a Regal movie theater. I worked at Hall Cinema 7. We constantly had to tell people we were not Regal, because Regal was across the street from us.
Yeah, that's like as close as you could get to Regal. That's funny.
Yeah, and not be Regal.
Are they only owned? Are they locally owned?
They are. Yeah, it's different people now, but they've done a lot of work on it recently. I've not been there, but I've heard that it's really nice.
So I don't know if I've ever been, but I thought it was cool. I mean, it's like a little personally owned movie theater next to the world's largest movie theater chain at one point.
It's hilarious. And I guess Regal was probably there first. I don't know. I don't know when Hall Cinema 7 went in. But what was funny is
I think it's been around a long time.
So when I was a kid, I used to go there because I grew up in Halls. But what's funny is the owner who hired me didn't know that I was related to him. So they didn't know that they hired me, and I was not too distantly related to him. He found out like a year later. But yeah, that was a fun job. I grew up getting to go to that theater for free and stay up. They have box seats hidden up in the top. And so we would sit up there, and then when I worked there, it was fun. It was a fun job. Anyway, worked at a theater, and I don't know where I was going with that. We totally got sidetracked with that conversation. But you would appreciate that I worked at a theater, I know.
I think we were talking about Regina Phalanges.
Yeah. And that's right. So Thursday nights, it threw us way off. Thursday nights, I had to do the signs, and we had the old the old signs with the letters, the groove letters, where I'd have to climb up on a ladder on the top, in front of the building, and put all the letters in and put all the new showtimes and stuff on Thursday nights. So I missed Friends for a few years there just because I was doing that. But it was cool because I got to preview movies on Thursday night as well before they came out, so that we could answer questions and stuff. It was a lot of fun.
It used to be a whole, it was like what 3D printing is today to get your VCR to record things too back then.
Yes. Didn't even mess with it. I caught up with, they eventually ended up on DVD, and I caught up through DVD. So things were different. I think me and a friend were talking about that the other day. We were talking about how on TV, it was very different because you had like 3 channels and Fox, and CBS, you had to go turn the antenna to get. I'm dating myself now. This is my grandmother's house that I'm talking about.
Me, it was Fox. Well, maybe it's Fox and CBS were all the different UHF.
That's right.
Channels. Yeah. And my friend called me, and he was so excited. He's like, "You gotta turn that other dial. Turn that
43.
other dial." I was like, "There's nothing on at 6:00. Everything's news," because all the other channels had news on. And he goes, "Turn that other." So I swear to God, man, turn it. So I turned that other dial. I hit that channel. And it was Chips, and we were like, "What the?"
We can watch shows still. I see.
So excited because usually you couldn't watch TV while the news was. I mean, or you didn't want to watch the news as a kid, right? But Chips.
Right. So, well, we were talking about when the president was on, everything stopped, and it was just the president on every single channel. But yeah, it was a different time. Let's see. All right. Skull Aquatics, Scuba Steve. I thought I saw somebody else. Scuba Steve-O's Aquatics is here. And I saw somebody saying Lady R, but I did not see, unless they're talking about Regina. But I figured it was Lady Rorschach. There she is. And I said her name this time. I've been practicing in between live streams, making sure I get the name right.
Is that
I don't know why it was trouble.
Killer Kitty?
Killer Kitty, yep.
That's a cool
Killer
name.
Kitty 08. All right.
It's cooler than
Substrate. It's cooler than pecktec. Yeah.
I might change my channel like Killer Kitty 09.
I think that's taken. You probably have to go with like 11. The Nano Aquarium guy. Welcome to the chat. Good to have you. Oh, there's those eaters. The Garden of Eater.
Hello.
How are you all doing?
They have great shrimp.
I hear that. I've seen some. I didn't do this last time. Not sponsored. I bought that. But I do always grab it for the live stream.
It's okay to be.
pecktec, you took my pick in my Rico shirt at Aquaticon. So you've met Killer Kitty.
Okay. Oh, I do remember you. I sent that to him, and he was so happy.
That's cool.
Rico happy.
I like Rico. I've just started following his channel not too long ago. I say not too long ago. It's been a few weeks.
For someone that's really new to making the fish videos, in my mind anyway, not as new as you, but he puts in a lot of work. He really puts in a lot of effort, and he's on there a lot, talking to folks and stuff. I mean, he hasn't even been keeping fish all that long either.
I think it's 2 years.
Really enthusiastic and loves to get on and talk about not just fish, but all kinds of stuff. He's a fun guy.
Yeah, I heard him say the other day that he's been keeping fish 2 years this time, and apparently he'd been keeping fish before. So thank you to the new subscribers. I appreciate that. I got some notifications. I really appreciate you subscribing to the channel. I hope you enjoy what we do around here. Every Tuesday night, 8:30 p.m., we do the live stream. And tonight we have Sean Peck with us from pecktec. So I'm excited to have you on. Let's jump into, let's see if I can hit the right thing. There we go.
Hey.
We've got some stuff for what we're going to talk about. I was trying to pull up. I always make notes, and for some reason I put them on my phone and I don't put them on my computer. So then I'm like looking down at my phone. One of these days I'll put it up on the computer. I did the please like and subscribe, trying to get used to live streaming. Check.
Yes.
If you don't mind, share the live stream if you're enjoying it. Let others know that it's here. That would be awesome. I appreciate that. And I already introduced you. Check. Good there. Fishfam.link. Check it out. It's an awesome resource. A lot of things are actually happening with it. Caught a live stream today with some new stuff coming up. It's really cool. I see Gina's Reef is now in the chat. Hello, Gina. All right. We're caught up. All caught up. Did a good job.
Yay.
So we're going to talk about Substrate tonight, and I'll kick us off, get us started. You know what? I didn't even throw any banners up. There we go. Welcome to Scruffy Cities Aquatics Live. I think I'm going to quit calling it a live stream and just start calling it Scruffy City Aquatics Live.
Yeah, might as well.
I mean, it sounds more fun to me than live stream. Everybody has a live stream. This is a live show. It's not the same thing.
You get like a live lake.
Favorite substrate. And I didn't do this one either. I made this one for you.
Oh.
Welcome. All right. Now that I've shown how incompetent I am at live streaming.
There's so many banners.
I created all the banners. I had to go through and delete a bunch of them from last time. All right, so let's get started. I'll start off. I'll start off with my favorite live stream. And no, it's not that. Yeah, not that. Sorry, I don't know how that got in there. That was not planned. Funny story.
That's what I recommend for a top layer. It's fun to plant in, and if you're colorblind, it looks really interesting.
Yeah. Now, if anyone has what I call the rainbow bar substrate and you love it, that's cool. I'm glad you love it. It's kind of a joke in the hobby that people don't like it. Not that the substrate's a joke, because it's still substrate. Still does his job. But when I got started in the hobby, my kids got to pick out the decor, and we had the purple, pink, and green. There was no blue or yellow in there. But yeah, that's what we had. And in my current tank, because I love Easter eggs, there is one large piece of neon gravel in the substrate. And when I turn on the blue light, you can see it. But you can't see it otherwise because it's toward the back of the tank. But
it's better than when you have that one white one and you think a fish is always dead.
Do that all the time, because I messed up and put large gravel in the tank, and all the time come through. Oh, wait a minute. Is that? No, it's a rock. Same rock as last time.
Where I've like ended up with one rock and it's sitting just that way. I always pull them out because I'm like, that's not a fish.
Yeah, you got to get rid of that rock. Move it. Put it someplace else.
And you'll notice it from across the room too. You're like, is that my new Tetra?
Yes, I have done that. I've gotten up and walked over and checked. So I see Shelby with TGOE, the Eaters, and I see Susan for SLC Aquatics. Welcome to the chat. All right, so really, what am I really going to talk about? I should say this. I didn't say this in the beginning. This is our favorite substrates. So I don't consider myself an expert by any sense, and I've heard Sean say the same thing. We're hobbyists. And so I can only speak from my own experience and talk about my favorite substrate from the experiences I've had. And so the only thing I've ever used is gravel. I've got gravel right now, and that's what I've used. I realize there are other things to use. Let me explain why I chose gravel, because I'm sure there are other people who are new to the hobby who maybe chose gravel as well. Maybe it was just because, they went into PetSmart or Petco, and that was the substrate laid out underneath the tanks as you're picking out fish in aquariums. Or maybe you're like me and you did a lot of research and you read about all the stuff about how the substrates will like decompose and start to compress, fall apart, and then after 2 years, you got to scoop it all out and throw it away and buy new. And you're like, I don't know that I'm that committed to this. And so gravel is a good alternative. But when I first got gravel, I didn't have live plants. And when I decided to start using live plants, I was a little worried that gravel wouldn't work. Petsotics is in the chat. Welcome, Petsotics. And if I've missed anybody, I'm sorry. I'm trying to keep up with it. There's almost 30 of us in here. That's awesome. Thank you all for coming. But yeah, I was a little worried about that. And that's when I found root tabs. And I use Flourish. Is it Flourish? It's Seachem's root tabs. I think they're called Flourish root tabs for a very long time. That was all that was local that I found. And I heard about Osmocote and I played around with that idea and looked at it online. I was like, yeah, I don't know that I'm going to do that. And then of course I came across the co-ops and I like those. I've been buying those. The price is really good on them. I like that, like $25 for 60. It's a good price. I recently had some issues in my tank where I left too many floaters. I should have pulled that clip. I made a clip of that, of you laughing at me for saying floaters too many times at the meeting. But I had too many floating plants in my aquarium and it's killed off, melted back a lot of my plants. Choked it out, just absolutely. And I saw it coming, but I was trying to hold on to them for everyone else, for other people, and I shouldn't have. I should throw them out. They all got thrown out when I got home. But yeah, so I'm shoving root tabs in there right now, trying to build up the substrate a little bit. But yeah, I've done that. I've actually got, and I need to make a video on this. I don't remember who designed it, but somebody on the Aquarium Co-op forum designed an applicator, and they had like a list, and at Home Depot, like where you find it, what aisle it's on, a list of what to use to make this thing. And it's like a plunger. I don't even have to stick my arm down in the tank to do this anymore. I just have this piece of PVC with a plunger on the end that I made out of doorknobs or drawer doorknobs, and stick it down the substrate, push it. Let me get my hand up here. Push it down. It inserts the root tab, the root tab, and go to the next one. It's really nice. I need to make that video, and I need to look up who made that because it's awesome and changed my hobby.
See that.
It did, because otherwise I'd be sitting there like, oh man, that sword is looking horrible, but I really don't want to put my arm in the tank right now. So yeah, that has saved a number of plants for me, because I am one of those hobbyists that I like to look more than work. I do enjoy working in my tank, but I like watching it and not having to do stuff all the time to it.
Well, and, I think like the Flourish tabs are a little bit easier to get into the substrate than the pellets, like the little pills are. I'm not saying one works better than the other, although I know the Flourish ones work really good. I've used both, but early on I had some great success with like Vesuvius swords and those Flourish tabs, so I always recommend them. I know they work at least on that plant, but I've used like the Aquarium Co-op specific ones and many other ones that I've gotten from my aquarium box and other place in a lot of aquariums that have more of a gravel type substrate or sand or something like that.
Yeah,
but
yeah, I liked Flourish. I used it for a long time before I found the co-ops, and they've been great. I have, at my last trip to the fish store, I picked up the Flourish tabs to try. I still have some Aquarium Co-op tabs ready to go, but I thought, you know what, I'm going to see how fast these bounce back with these, and I kind of put some on one end and kept the Aquarium Co-ops on the other. So I'm kind of testing it myself and see which one I like better, because the value's there on the co-op. If you can get them down the substrate, it's like $9 will get you 20. And with the Flourish tabs, it's $10 get you 20. $10 will get you, in my area, I can't speak for all over the world. And then the Flourish is, I think, 10 of them for $10. So they're $1 a piece. But yeah, testing it. We'll see what works.
But that's kind gravel, of an alternative to substrate.
It is.
To plant in substrates.
And you're constantly having to put that in there. And I realized that. That's why I was very interested in your presentation at the meeting, at the East Tennessee Aquatic Association meeting, because I am interested in maybe doing something else if I do another tank. And also, I made the mistake of going too large on my gravel in the 75. Now, there is like regular size gravel in there and a lot of it. But
Yeah.
at one point, I added larger gravel and it just kind of got churned up and mixed up. And so the big stuff, I think, is leaching some of the minerals out into the water. And I'm getting a lot of Blackbeard algae on my substrate.
Oh.
And I think that's why. So I'm going to be looking at alternatives and considering tearing down the 75. And I don't really want to do that. But what I'd really like to do is just cap it with more gravel. And I'll probably do that.
Well, you shouldn't be scared to take that aquarium apart and rebuild it like a couple of times. Like most every time that I've gone into a tank and said, okay, I give up. I'm just going to start over. I'm a lot happier. Like sometimes a tank will pull through and eventually do okay, and you kind of wait it out and stuff. But it's funny. The thing that helps my tanks the most is usually age. Like the older they get, the more things calm down in there and stuff, and you kind of figure out how much food is the right amount of food, and eventually it'll balance out. But if you're having a lot of problems or you're just annoyed, if at any point you're annoyed by it, then just don't be scared to pull all that stuff out of there and do something else if you want, or completely swap it out. Blackbeard algae was tough. Like I don't have any of it anymore. I used to have a lot of it. Like you can even look at my early videos when I first got on YouTube. I mean, I had some tanks that were just like, it was flowing and stuff.
Yeah.
Nobody cared. Everybody, oh, that looks so great. How'd you make it do that? I was like, I want it to go away.
I don't want it there. Yeah, I have struggled with the Blackbeard for sure. And I've tried to find balance. Haven't got it yet. The tank's been running for 2 years now. So it has been as is for a while. I need to pull up. I pulled up some pictures not long ago of it. I need to do a video just kind of showing how it changed, and maybe that'll lead up to a big change for it. Who knows? Encourage me.
Switch over 2 of my tanks to like the similar scenario that I used for the anoxic 20 gallon and the 43 gallon, which are both doing really, really good now. So I want to do that with another 2 tanks and just see if it keeps going. But that's sort of a supplement underneath the substrate and stuff.
The other thing with the enriched substrates, I'm a little worried about cost too for a 75 gallon. It's a big investment, but we'll talk about that in a moment. I'm sure we'll talk about that more in a moment. Okay. I'm going to throw up a few. Susan for SLC Aquatic says gravel is my favorite as well, and second favorite is Eco Complete. We'll be talking about that, I'm sure. I made the slides. I know we're going to be talking about it. Seachem is Flourish. All right. And then Stephen P says, oh, I didn't say Silver Creek Aquarius says Seachem is Flourish. Thank you. That got my back. And then Stephen P says Flourish tabs are my preference. They sink easily. And I agree with that. They do. If you drop it, it sinks down. It's not a problem. It's not going to work its way up out of the substrate. And they're really dense. So I'm comparing 20 tabs to 10 tabs, but in truth, those 10 Flourish tabs probably have 2 to 3 times the mineral dirt that's in the co-op tabs. I don't know that for a fact.
I broke mine in half.
Oh, the Flourish tabs?
Yeah, I'd like smash them, break them into smaller pieces and put them around.
That's a good thought. I don't know why I didn't think of that.
I haven't used them in years, but they were great when I did use them.
The co-op tabs, I've heard people putting a little hole in them so that the air comes out while you're pushing them down. If you're quick enough, you don't get a lot of leaching, but I've never tried that. The applicator is the bomb. I'll share that soon. I need to share that.
That sounds more like an agricultural device. I like the sound of that.
Yeah, that's the name I came up with too. I don't know that that's what they called it. Yeah. So the nano aquarium guy, I always call him the nano guy, nano aquarium guy. My daughter loves her glowfish and her colorful gravel, though it is covered in plants now. Yeah, my girls loved the gravel when we had it. I couldn't wait. Once they stopped showing interest in it, I showed up with a bag of natural looking gravel though. I couldn't wait to make it look natural. I was like, isn't it going to look good? It's going to look like a stream or a river or something.
I made a deal with that with my kid too. Is like, is if I ever have to do a water change on this tank, then that no fishing sign's coming out.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I'm just going through the chat. Zen Ginger's I have gravel in a few, overstratum, sand overstratum, and river rocks in a couple, plus a couple bare bottoms. I can't make up my mind.
That's a wide variety.
Yeah.
I don't really have, I guess my sumps are kind of bare bottom, but it seems unfair because it's the whole thing's a filter, It's like
right. Yeah. So Stephen P says BBA on substrate is excess debris, mulm buildup, low CO2, too much light. Yeah, I try to keep the mulm off the front, which it's only in the front. And so I do like gravel back there. Not like deep, but get everything off the top. And then low CO2, maybe. I did try DIY CO2 for a while, and I'm not running it currently. But I did try it for a while, may have impacted the melt back. Not sure. Yeah, could be. I did get a CO2 indicator when I was running CO2. And even when I didn't have CO2, it was mostly green. So it is not perfect, but it was mostly green. So I don't know that how low that would be, because it's supposed to be blue if CO2 is low. So I was curious about that. I couldn't find anything to tell me anything more exact. And as far as too much light, I have had my light on 30%, 60%, 90%. I change it and watch it for a while to see. Definitely the 65% seems to be a sweet spot for me right now.
Yeah, any of those things are a possible cause, but sometimes it's just you've got some BBA that came in through the water, the local water supply, and you're just going to deal with it until it decides there's another way to live. BBA is like real susceptible to hydrogen peroxide, and you can spray it pull things out and spray them, or get real close inside the underwater and spray it. You don't want to go too hog wild because you can cause some problems.
I've done hog wild. I've learned that mistake.
I poured it directly into tanks, like pulled all the shrimp and fish out and just went just see what happens.
So I researched this. All right. I did not just do this. I found it online. I found it in multiple places. I was standing there as I was doing it thinking this is a bad idea, but multiple people said that it worked. So I'm going to try it. I took my plants out and I put them in a hydrogen peroxide dip for about 60 seconds, a full minute, and then pulled it out, rinsed it off, kept it all in a bucket overnight, and then put it back in the tank. The next day, after I put it in the tank, it looked gorgeous. Everything was dying. All the purple, all the BBA was dying off. It was great. A few days later, everything was pristine. Tank had never looked better. And then a couple days later, melt, and everything melted back to roots. Yeah. Skydancer says hello.
Hello.
All right. I can only talk about gravel for so long. Everybody's talking about root tabs. I'd love to put more up here, but I am just way behind.
That's something else for the gravel folks. So
what's that?
I used to use Malaysian. My first tanks, my first aquariums ever, were just gravel because I didn't know anything about planted substrate. I got black gravel and I put it in there. I knew, like, I'd seen pictures of planted tanks, and I've got this picture with this ridiculously huge piece of driftwood. It was a piece of Malaysian driftwood. I still have it somewhere in my garage, but it was one of those. I asked someone to fish it out at the aquarium, to fish it out of one of the tanks to buy it, and then when we got to the register, they're like, "That'll be $140," and I was like, "Oh." I was looking at something else. But I was so embarrassed I bought it anyway. But I
Yeah.
just remember like
Oh man.
never being that naive about driftwood again. But it was my first piece of driftwood I'd ever bought. So I take it home and I put it on the. So imagine it's 55, just black gravel, and this huge log down right in the middle. And then two
Yeah.
plastic plants on either side because I couldn't afford anything else to put in there. So I had these two plastic plants
You
on either
spent
side.
all of your money on the log.
And that was like my first big tank or something. And but pretty soon after that, I got into planting. But because I didn't change the substrate on that for a long, long time. And but what happens with Malaysian driftwood is it sloughs a lot.
Yeah.
So all that wood is slowly disintegrating and falling off, and that
Yeah.
huge piece kind of drifted down to a smaller and smaller piece. But the whole time it did, it's putting these wood chips not in the filter, unfortunately, but
Oh,
also into the substrate, and it kind
yeah.
of made this weird sort of dirt substrate out of the just gravel. So if you've got enough of that Malaysian driftwood, eventually you're going to have like another kind of substrate that's full of that wood and full of that
Yeah.
all the gravel stuff and anything that falls into those things.
I have some Malaysian driftwood in the 75. I got a piece with Anubias on it, and then I picked up another piece that I recently pulled out, and because it had Java fern on it, and I can't grow Java fern, so
So you're
um,
slowly creating another kind of substrate anyway.
yeah.
Unfortunately, it clogs all the filters too. I've had to stop using the Malaysian stuff if I can help it. But
Yes, I moved away from it. The only piece I have is the one with the large Anubias, and that was like my first or second plant that I kept alive. There were other plants, but that Anubias was one of the first ones I kept alive. A lot of people talking about heat waves and rain and flooding and everything, and there's some crazy stuff going out with the heat waves for sure. Crown Tail Half Moon says hello. All right. That was it for me. That's all I brought. That's all the homework I did. Substrate. I talked about substrate. Gravel. I talked about gravel for like 20 minutes. I think I think I did good. So let's put up your first one, and you can tell me if I did good. There you go.
So I've started using this product from Brightwell Aquatics, and it's a Laterite powder. So a lot of times, especially if you're a dirted tank person, um, you'll remember I think what I wanted to do dirted tanks originally, I bought Dustin's Fish Tanks little guide to doing the dirted tanks and follow that. It's like a pamphlet or something for $20.
Yeah.
And I went through it, and it had red clay in it. They wanted what was it called? Mexican potting clay. And I made these clay balls and stuff. But what happened
Yeah.
when I did that was the plants would grow into those clay balls, and you'd pull out the whole clay ball, and it would just make a huge mess. Or sometimes you'd be wanting to put in like your driftwood, and it would dig into the substrate a little bit. It hit those clay balls, and I was finding them all over the place.
Oh yeah.
So but it's really handy to have stuff like an iron source right down in the low oxygen areas, because the bacteria down there does eat that red iron stuff, and plants that have red in them will be enhanced once their roots get down there and start to acquire that. Just kind of having that in the substrate is great. And
Mhm.
Laterite is really cool too. It's a product that used to be sold for plant, like they used to sell big bags of Laterite as a planted substrate. It kind of makes a mess. You had to cap it almost like dirt. But
I could imagine.
yeah, but this stuff is in a powdered form, so you can put it in like a supplement. So you don't have necessarily a layer of it, but
Right.
you can sprinkle it in throughout your bottom layers of your substrate, so it never kind of comes out, and it won't pop out as soon as you pull a plant with a root or something like that. But it'll be there and be just as nutritious for the low oxygen bacteria and stuff. So it's cool. I like it a lot, and I just discovered it like this year sometime. So I've been excited to find that. In the past, I used Do I have it up here with me? Nope. In the past, I used this Greg Jones. Remember from Greg's Fish Room? He was the owner of my aquarium box, and they used to send out red clay powder. And I used that for a number of years. And of course, my aquarium box is no more. And I was like, Greg, where do I get that stuff? And he goes, well, there's another product. And that's where I got pointed to the Laterite powder that I use now. So,
and this is just a little sprinkle on the bottom before you start your other layers.
like a supplement, you know.
Not too much. I can imagine you talking about it making a mess. I can imagine it would make a mess.
Yeah. I keep it in the bottom layer. Sometimes I do the very, very bottom of the tank along with some aragonite or you know, if I choose to use that stuff too. Aragonite is like a crushed coral, and I didn't give you a slide for that because it's so cheap to buy those things. You can usually get crushed coral at like Lowe's or something like that for a lot cheaper than the fish store. And the way to my understanding, it's still safe to use. So, but
I was just going to say, that reminds me, we were going to share. Let's see if it goes through. I hit enter. Yeah. Did that work? Can you click on that? No. Let me fix that. I can't link well.
Oh, don't worry about the links and stuff.
Okay.
We can put them in the description in case somebody wants
all
it
right.
after the
I'll
video.
put them all in the description so that you can find it. We've got some affiliate links, which will help out pecktec.
I've got my Amazon Horde links in there. So
yeah. Hey, every little bit helps.
I make like a couple of minis if you decide you want something. So it's fun.
Right. And you know when you've helped somebody because you see it on the report.
It's true. Right. And this is all stuff that I use. Brightwell didn't tell me about it. I found out from a friend and went and bought it on Amazon myself. So and I've used it in every tank I've made in the past like year or so. So it's good stuff.
I see JT in the chat and he says it worked. It's just on my end. I'm sure StreamYard just doesn't show me. So okay, good.
That's fine.
So it is in the chat if somebody wants to use it. If you follow an affiliate link, it does, support Sean and his channel. So he would appreciate if you were to use that if you're interested in this product. And absolutely any questions in the chat, I'm sure he can answer them. I can't, or he can answer from his experience.
I'll do my best.
Right. From experience. That's where we're coming from. All right. We can move to the next one if you're ready.
Yeah, sure. What's the next? Oh, Fluorite Dark. So
I couldn't get a good picture of this one.
Down in the depths of the tank, I like to put this big, thick, chunky substrate. There's a bunch of different kinds of fluorite, but I'm usually like on the top layers, I know I'm going to put that black soil kind of substrate. So I like to do something that if it gets mixed up and churned up, it'll kind of provide a little bit more texture to the, just visually to the tank. But not clash as far as colors go. So, but they have red and they have like a brownish color. Now with fluorite, all the different kinds of fluorite, you're going to want to rinse them out really good. They get really, really muddy. And in fact, my very first planted tank was all fluorite, no cap or anything like that. Just this much fluorite in the bottom of a tank, like in a 30-gallon. It was a lot. And it looked like a mud box for about a week. I didn't rinse it at all. I just put it straight in there and then filled it up with water, and it was just like a box full of mud for a week.
I've seen that on YouTube before.
That was my first planted tank. I remember I bought a bunch of plants from Taiwan on eBay, and all the ones that lived are the plants that I have now. Just about.
Oh, that's cool.
But yeah, I love the substrate because it tends to last forever. Like there's no end date. It doesn't break down. It's not super fragile, but it is, and it's good to plant in. It's nice and chunky. The roots can grab a hold and really hold on in there, but still pliable enough to move through and stuff. So it's that great kind of middle ground. I love to have that right on the bottom of the tank.
Yeah, so this substrate, it was the one that I almost bought when I did the 75, and the cost scared me off. And I was afraid that I would make a mistake. Like, spend that much money and get the wrong thing type cost issue.
And the difference in this and like a regular versus gravel is it's got more minerals in it. Now this one is inert. It's not
Right.
going to change your pH at all or cause an ammonia spike or anything like that. It's inert, but it does contain minerals and the capacity to absorb nutrients so that your plants can tap into them later. So it's a little bit more useful than plain gravel, but it does have some of the same properties as gravel. So as far as like, the texture and planting and stuff like that.
Big Tank Hank.
Tank Hank.
Says, hey y'all. Glad to have you. So like I said, I almost bought this one. Corey's. I had Corey's. I started reading stuff on the internet. This stuff's sharp. Don't put it with your Corey's. I've since found that that's probably not accurate.
Not so much for this stuff. I mean, well,
right.
maybe. I haven't thought about it too much because I usually put it on the bottom with other things. But I really, when you start keeping aquariums, there's like a couple of things that everybody wants to do. And one is build their own filter. And the other one, if you're a planted tank person, is to come up with the perfect combination of substrate that grows your plants but not a ton of algae and then lasts forever. And if you make it so you never have to do a water change again with your super substrate, then all the better. But there are a lot of you do with quarries and stuff. They really prefer sand and like really fine stuff, and maybe this could pinch it or something. But I don't think they're this one isn't so bad. Like I wouldn't think it would be super scary to have quarries in there with it. I don't think they would prefer it over other stuff.
Yeah. Now I do have I have sand in part of my 75. I didn't put a slide for it, but I do have sand in it, and I did it intentionally for the quarries, not because I feel that they have to have it. I know that's not true. I just enjoy watching them root around in the sand. I mean, they're really cute. It's a lot of fun. I was watching them today. I think I did a short on YouTube with it, with some that were on the sand, and it was really great. So I don't know if that's true about fluorite. I know I've seen it, and I've heard it's not true.
Well,
but
there's you can keep fish in millions of different ways, so it's hard to say. I mean, somebody could have. I think they have the quarries will have a more natural experience on like a sand or something like that. But if it doesn't mean you can't take good care of a quarry with this stuff. So who knows?
Yeah. Now, in their natural habitat, a lot of species actually live on rough, sharp rock. So it's not something that their species is not used to. But as aquarists, we want to give them, their best life with what we want to keep, and keep an aquarium that we like and provides them with the best life. So I totally understand those conversations and thoughts. I chose not to do it for that reason, but looking back on it with what I know now, it wouldn't have been a factor, I don't think.
I think after a while too, you sort of check out of those conversations.
Right.
And just
and it's true.
You can observe how things are going at your place, and if it seems like it's rough on them, then do something else. For me, when my quarries got old, I moved them into like less. They were into a place where they could get in less trouble. You know what I mean? And maybe had a little bit even easier, more optimal scenario than they started, because mine lived a long time. Yeah, my acumen for aquarium keeping grew exponentially in the time before once I got them to they died. So
yeah. I will say this: I have both gravel and a large gravel and sand in that 75, and my quarries, most of the time, if they're just hanging out, they're hanging out on the sand. They do prefer to hang out there. So Silver Creek Aquarius says fluorite's good stuff, great for that low tech with stacked substrates as well. That's what I'm learning.
It can benefit, and there are some plants that like really benefit from the what they get at the roots, and if
Mhm.
you feed them there, then that's great. Uh, the alternative to like fluorite dark for me would probably be dirt. Well, you kind of invert the bottom layer and the top layer, uh, like because go to the next one for my top substrate.
All right. Get rid of the comment. And next one is
So now you've got
Eco
like
Complete.
eco complete. So that's option A. This is inert, and what it is it's sort of gravel with nutrients sprayed onto it. So
Oh, okay.
it's got like fertilizer, but it's put on it artificially, and so and it comes in this kind of like juice that's like a it's yeah. So
It looks
you can
messy.
pour it straight from the bag in there, and it's good to go. So I used this with the fluorite in my 56-gallon column tank, which is my oldest planted tank on YouTube, and it's still going. In fact, I'm going to break it down only because the stand's starting to fall apart because
Mm.
I had a couple of leaks with the canister filter. The press board is kind of worrying me a little bit, so I'm going to break it down and maybe put the plants in the big 210 if I ever redo it. But uh, this is the substrate I used at the top, and I don't think it doesn't, the nutrient wise, it doesn't last a super long time. And I don't know if it's as optimal as some of the other ones, but in the short term, I think it does a good job, and it doesn't break down. So it's not going to be like unsightly or turn into mush or something like that. It'll still be sort of a nice fine gravel. It's really fun to plant in, like physically putting the plants into the substrate and stuff. This works really well. And what'll happen is if you keep it for a long period of time, it'll mix in with the other stuff, especially if you do a lot of gravel vacuuming and stuff. I don't I don't tend to really gravel vac almost at all. I kind of hover above where the plants are
Yeah.
and the surface if there's an exposed area or something like that. But Eco Complete is a viable option. It's cheaper, and
Yeah.
I don't think long term. I don't think it lasts super long as far as like being something different than gravel, but it does in the short term. I think that juice is like a biological supplement too, like to kind of a
Okay.
kickstart. So I can't remember now. It's been a long time, but I used that on probably 4 or 5 projects, and they all came out fine.
Do you see any ammonia um, coming off of this when you use it?
No, it's still
No.
inert.
Okay.
It's still inert. The soil
Steel
ones.
Slinga says when 10, 20 grit sand, they love it.
Oh.
Talking about the quarries.
Yeah.
Quarries love the sand. They do. Yeah, I have seen people use this on YouTube, but I wasn't sure of it. I did not realize it would hold up over time. I thought it was one of those that would collapse. So that's good to
No,
know.
yeah, because it's basically gravel again, but it's got supplements kind of painted
It's
on.
sprayed on there.
Yeah.
It's graffitied substrate. Our
And that
aquatic
might not
universe
be,
with Mike B.
take
Hey,
that
all.
with a grain of salt, folks, because that's like what I heard. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I haven't been there and watched them make it or something, but that's the way it was explained to me is like how that one works. So maybe that's the way I believe it works.
That's how we that's what we're going with for now. Susan for SLC Aquatics says you're right.
Hmm.
So Mike B is here saying hi to everyone. Welcome to the chat and the live stream, Mike B. Thanks for joining us. So you only put this on the top. Was it a full layer all the way across the top when you did
Yes.
the tank with the fluorite? Okay,
Yeah,
so it
I
wasn't
always
like pockets; it was the whole thing.
Yeah, I like to do a full layer all the way across of whatever I'm using and stuff.
That way
I
you
have
have
done like half
options.
sand and stuff, but what always happens with me is like I try to make it look really neat, and then the sand just kind of goes everywhere or something. I just
Yeah,
I have trouble keeping like separate. I've tried all kinds of things like with plastic dividers and
I
stuff to
did
try
that.
to keep the substrates from blending. But really, when you're talking about a tank that you're going to have like 5, 6, 7 years or something like that, I just do a layer, and it's
Yeah.
just simpler.
Yeah, next time when I do something, I won't do two. I did put a divider between them, and because the tank is 2/3 gravel and only about a third sand, and the sand's mostly in the front, and so it slopes back to the back where it's more gravel, so that I
Yeah.
could put plants back there. And it looked really good in the beginning, but it slowly just kind of churned and mixed up there. And so I've kind of got some sandy gravel at one point. So yeah, but it works. I like it, but I may change it. Uh, JT says I've been considering blasting sand. What are y'all's experience growing plants? Any tips? I also use CO2.
Uh, Blasting sand and pull filter sand are artificial sands, so you got a real consistent grain across them. I've heard of people using both. I've never personally used blasting sand. I can't remember if it was finer. It seemed like there was something different about that, like it was a little sharper on the edges than like pull filter sand or something like that. Or maybe you needed to rinse it a little more. I haven't personally used it, but I know a lot of folks do. Uh,
Yeah, it's
both
common
of
in the
them,
hobby.
yeah, both of them are inert. The absolute, they're a pleasure to plant in. Like again, there are some things that like you got to put the plant in and they just float right out. But the sand, all sand of all types is just great,
Yes.
super easy, and you can just be like, you really get a lot of work done.
Yeah, I
Uh,
moved all my dwarf Sagittaria over there, and it creeps into the sand, and planting it in there was a lot better than that gravel.
well, plants like tend to move around a lot better in there, especially if you get like Monte Carlo or those or the four-leaf clover or something like that. The carpeting plants, they love moving through that fine substrate. But like, especially the light sand, it just tends to look dirty more often. If you've got like coolie loaches or like a spastic fish, even cories maybe that are always all there, like fanning it and cleaning it off and stuff, it looks okay. If you got kind of lazier big fish and stuff like that, it just looks like a mess all the time. And
Right.
my tank with my coolie loaches, like the sand's perfect. Like it's always pristine. Like they kick up the dirt and it gets into the filter and goes away. Uh,
Yeah.
but a few of my other tanks that I've had, I don't know. I like sand okay, but it depends on what purpose that tank is serving, I think.
Yeah. Regina Phalange says, my hesitation breaking down that tank of mine with a variety of soil substrate is the fish. And that's what I'm worried about with the 75. When I switched from the 25 to the 75, that was my biggest concern. And so doing that again, because I used the substrate out of the 25 in the 75. And it bellowed up. I was like, I'm not gonna be able to put these fish in here for tonight, maybe tomorrow. So I had buckets with air stones going and heaters. But yeah, that's my biggest worry because I don't have a lot of tanks. I don't have any other tanks. I guess I could cram them all in the 25 and just do like water changes until it settled.
I guess there's a couple of scenarios. One, the like the optimal scenario is you're starting another tank, so you've got a whole other tank.
Right.
This is how multi-tank syndrome begins. But you got a whole nother tank that you're going to just swap things into. So you kind of go ahead and you put your substrate in the way you want, you plant it
Yeah.
out, you get it going for like a month, and then you bring the hill stream loaches over. Um, and then you break that tank down and you put it on a shelf for later. Or
Or
you make a little room
make
and it
room. Yeah.
goes in. Now you got two tanks.
It's
So yeah.
magic.
Well, that's what happened with me is like I want to make changes and stuff. I'm like, well, where am I going to put these fish? Well, I might as well just set up another tank and I can just move them over there. Well, now I got two tanks. I'll reset this tank and I'll set up another one. So I used every trick in the book. I think in the beginning with Aquarius, like you just can't stop thinking about fish, and you end up with just so many different things.
You're like, wait, I can't put that fish with this fish, so that means I need another aquarium. Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm considering what I could do with, because I've got the 10-gallon quarantine tank that's a grow out tank right now. And I'm considering building a stand where I can put the 25 over top of the 10. And today I was looking at it thinking, I could put another 10 on top of that.
Yeah.
Or a couple of 10s. I think a couple of 10s would be too deep. I don't think I can do that, but I'm messing around with the idea in my head. Keeper Kane says my favorites are definitely blasting sand and brown Tennessee gravel from Lowe's. Too many tanks for name brands. I understand that. Those of you who have big fish rooms, I get it for sure. All right, you ready for the next one?
Mitch has been over to my house. Yeah, I don't actually have. I mean, I've got quite a few tanks, but not like breeder. Like I don't have a fish room that's just only aquariums like all the way down or anything. So I tend to be real. I don't have, and plus I've got a YouTube channel. I get a little bit of ad revenue and stuff like that. So it's okay. Like I've got the money from YouTube to buy like our next product, which is a good segue. The soil substrate, and my favorite one is the ADA Aqua Soil Amazonia. This stuff is so good, and like it's never let me down. And of all the soils, it lasts the longest. I feel like without breaking down a whole lot. Every tank I've used it in has worked well, and seems to work well for a number of years. Like I thought it would be like a year or so on some other ones before it would really start to kind of not work. This is what is in my I want to say it's in my Mega Flex. I know for sure it's in my Spec 16. I did one tank where I tried to do all the different ADA products and stuff for one tank. So I got the power sand, which I didn't give you a link for. It's kind of hard to find, but it's like a big chunky, almost like pumice stone or something, like really big chunks and chunky gravel kind of stuff. And I got all the little powdered supplements, or I got like a little portion of the powdered supplements and I put it in there. And at first, but I planted something really boring, and then I eventually went through and I redid it. But that tank has been going really well for years and years and years. So if I've got my preference, this is what would go over the C-Chem, and the C-Chem keeps substrating the tank from being so expensive. So you get the benefits of that C-Chem kind of more long term, and then and as a bottom layer that the roots can kind of hold on to, and then you get this stuff on top, which is real super, almost like sand. It's real easy to move through for the roots and the runners and different plants and stuff like that. It is chock full of nutrients too. It's got very, very nutrient rich substrate that lasts a long time. It's also reactive, so this is going to lower the pH in your tank. So if that's something you were trying to shoot for, kind of like peat moss, it'll definitely lower the pH. It also can cause an ammonia spike in the short term, so you have to watch that when you use it. Usually, I get about a 0.25 ammonia spike. I've been told, so I've asked a number of folks like George Farmer and I think I asked this of Rachel too, that can you cycle off that little ammonia spike? Like that, can that help with the cycle? And they say yes. So in a way, it can kind of be like a partial, at least fishless cycle. So when you see that ammonia, if you test that ammonia in there, you can go ahead and throw some like if you've got another tank, you can go ahead and throw some of that filtration into there, and the bacteria will have something to eat from that ammonia. And then you can kind of test it. If it starts to normalize out, then maybe start adding fish too. So it's pretty neat. It is expensive. I think a 3 3 liters of this is like $30. I bought a 9-liter bag of this for 50 something dollars. So it's a little
Ooh.
cheaper if you buy a bigger size, but it's a
Yeah.
lot. It's
Yeah.
it's more than I would probably pay for if I was going to if I didn't have a YouTube channel. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I know that I know that at least that video about the aquarium is gonna make a little money, and not a lot, but it's gonna be enough to kind of offset
Offset.
buying
Yeah.
this versus something cheaper.
Right. That's the dream. Support the hobby.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So the alternatives to this are going to be all the soil substrates. There's so many now. Like there's a bunch. Fluval has one. The Fluval one tends to break up a little bit more. It gets a little bit more granular. But it's great for making wabi kusa balls, and I've started making these wabi kusa, and that's just some of the soil substrate. A lot of people use this stuff, but some of soil substrate mixed with sphagnum moss, and sometimes I'll put that Brightwell stuff in there and other things, and you mix them up and you turn it into and make a mud ball of it out of it.
Okay.
And then you can plant plants on it, and if you get it kind of partially in the water, it wicks the water up into the plants. So you can, and that's kind of the way. Okay, that's the way this tank works in the top, that steam tank, with all the plants growing on and stuff. So
That's very cool.
I love to use it for that because it kind of breaks down real easy, and it's really great to kind of reform into other things. So that's kind of an alternative use for fluval stratum. And
so you said it's kind of like a sand. So my image is probably like really blown up then.
No, it has a similar feel of sand, except that it's like a super light gravel, like a really like gravel that's full of air almost. And that makes it kind of difficult to plant in. Like a lot of these other ones I'm talking about how much fun it is to plant in. This one is not fun to plant in. If you go to put a plant, you kind of push down in there, it just pulls right out. So it's really easy for the plants to move through once you get them down, but I find this one to be a little bit more difficult than the others.
But that's why you use the other layers to hold on to the plant.
Yeah, so if you can dig all the way down to that other layer and then sort of squish it as you're pulling it out, then that'll hold it down a lot better. Or sometimes I'll also, because all this black across the top is kind of stark, and it's not for everyone. Some people might want a little bit more natural colors or a variety of different shades and shapes. On top of that, you can use like a river gravel or the decorative stuff like that. And a lot of times I'll cheat my plants with those rocks. And in the early aquascape, when you first set up your tank, it can be a little bit more important to have that kind of top layer of gravel that it'll all eventually sift down. Like all the heavier stuff will make its way and you won't see it eventually. But in the short term, you'll have something a little bit more attractive to look at while your plants grow in. After your plants grow out, all of that stuff will be covered up. So
I don't know what's happening. But yeah, I mean that makes sense that it wouldn't grab. Telling her don't come back through here. Jimmy P's Aquariums. Nice to have you, Jimmy P.
Hello, Jimmy.
Great to see you. And let's see. Trying to catch up a little bit. Everybody saying hi to Jimmy. And definitely awesome if you rescape a lot. Energy depleted. The only cure is more people clicking the like button. Yeah, that would be appreciated. I like that.
The absolute cheapest way to go would be the dirted tanks. And that's like if we're starting on the bottom, you could still use like the Brightwell's stuff. And then you do like a potting soil. Which kind of potting soil is kind of up for debate, but you do want to avoid fertilize, things that are overly fertilized. a lot of stuff that's organic, like for food, is really, really good. You want to avoid things with the little white pearls that are supposed to kind of help contain moisture and stuff like that. And then you usually would cap that with the sands we talked about before, like uh, the blasting sand or the pool filter sand is what I tend to use. The only problem with like the pool filter sand is it's only beige. That's it.
Right.
That's a
You
good
get the one
sand
color.
color in my opinion. I think
Yeah.
the blasting sand is black, if I remember correctly. I can't remember if it's white, like sand blasting sand, or if it's like a black color, but it's kind of different too.
Yeah, I think I've seen it black. The
It's
Zen Ginger shared your I don't know how to say it. The Kusa bricks, the balls.
the Wabi Kusa bricks. Yeah.
Wabi Kusa bricks.
Yeah, so
Nice.
Wabi Kusa balls are like a traditional kind of Japanese way of doing those things. Yeah, but I noticed like on Amano on his ADA webpage, they were doing these Wabi Kusa things, but they were flat. They were like a little platter, almost like a dinner, not a dinner plate, but like a platter plate, like a
Yeah.
long oval. And they were kind of flat, and they had already pre-grown all these plants on it. So they were just kind of setting up these things, getting plants ready, and like putting them someplace to grow. And then, so when they go to do an aquascape, they just pull them off, and then they just stick it on a ledge.
Okay.
So if you've got an aquascape that's like got some zones like rock things that are really far away from the substrate, you can just take some substrate and kind of jam it in there with, and then put plants on that, or pre-grow it all together if you've got like a mono money or what time, and or
Right.
you feel like trying it. I've wanted to try it for a long time, but I can't discipline myself to just set up a farm, to
Right.
grow these things out. But what a neat idea to pre-grow all that stuff and then just jam it into a rock, and it'll last a long time.
Yeah. That I've never seen that. I'll have to check that out. The Zen Ginger says perlite would be a disaster level mess in your tank when you go to fill. This is true.
At least it'd all come out pretty quick, I guess. So I'll be
Yeah.
floating up to the top. Dirted tanks are really, really a different kind of thing. Like they work really well. You need to get your mixture of dirt right and cap it more than you'd think. I have capped the Aqua Soil stuff. You're not supposed to, but I did it. I've done it like a couple of times. Like when a tank didn't go quite the way I wanted, it's like, well, maybe I'll like put 6 inches of sand on top and see what happens.
Right.
And a couple of times it's been okay. Like I've got one tank where it worked pretty well, and another tank where it just hasn't worked at all. So your mileage may vary, I guess, on that. I definitely, if you're going to dirt a tank, I just use topsoil or something like that. It is bar none the cheapest way to aquascape, but boy, there's a lot of I feel like there's a lot more maintenance. Like I got a lot of activity. Like it is really hard to fight the algae back in those things. You got to be sort of dedicated or just not care that it's there. I mean, that's another way to go too, is you just let things just go nuts, and eventually the plants will outcompete the algae and win, and you'll end up with something nice. But sometimes that's a wait.
That's what's going on with the micro pond. Right. Yeah, wait a year. The micro pond, I have terracotta pots with topsoil in them, and then I have gravel on the top. So that's what I'm trying.
Bare bottom tanks and stuff, you can definitely do that too.
Yeah. The only problem is I did not factor in weather. And yesterday, a really bad wind gust came through and knocked over my new blue flag iris. Blue flag iris. I think that's right. Knocked it over. All the gravel spilled out, and the water didn't look so great. So
yeah.
Wow, we just got a lot of rain just now. Like, just fell on me.
Yeah, I was trying. It's like, do I hear that there or here? I think it's.
I don't know,
too.
But we have gone over for sure because we're having too much fun talking about dirt. I want to thank everyone.
Substrate should be a lot of fun. You don't get to do it very often. Like you know, I don't know. Some people set up planted tanks all the time. I do maybe 3 or 4. maybe 4 or 5 a year on a really active year or something. So when I do it, I like to make a big deal out of it, and it's really fun to do the layers.
Yeah, I am looking forward to. I've got my girls keep saying they want to do tanks in their bedrooms, and so we're working on that. I've considering putting a couple 10 gallons, and I would like to do something like this layered substrate in there, and be able to grow some plants and see how that works out. So
Well,
it's something I'm considering.
it's cool too because you can mix and match it to different things. Like I'm going to do an anoxic setup. So in that one, I typically do an under gravel filter, and then I'll do
Mhm.
a layer of like cat litter on top, which is like a type of clay that just
Okay.
absorbs nutrient. Like as the nutrients come through, it absorbs all of it. The plants come through later on, and they tap into that, and it becomes like a superfood for them. So it's great
Yeah.
for growing the plants, and it covers up the this void that you create with the plenum down in the lower part, which is supposed to grow like even different varieties of bacteria and keep the activity down there all healthy, a lot healthier than just being completely oxygen free. So if you have a very slow amount of movement through there, if you have too much, the roots suffer. Too much
Okay.
movement through the bottom layers, and the roots don't like it. But if you get something really slow, just barely drawing off that, apparently it's great. And I was real skeptical. I'm a real skeptical at first, but I tried it and it worked really great. And then I tried it again, and I was like, oh, I don't know. And the second time, like my 43 gallon, I did this, but I also did all the stuff we just talked about too. I just piled it up on top. I mean, I think I had 7 layers. It was like a burrito.
That's exactly what I was thinking of.
It's like a
7-layer burrito
perfect nachos or something, or a bean
or
dip.
7-layer dip.
And it's working out great. Like long term, it's been great. So I'm about to try that and try some kind of bold new things too. And there's a million ways to do it.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun to experiment with. So don't be scared.
Yeah,
That's my tip.
I'm looking forward to trying some stuff because with the 75, it was too big of an investment to try stuff, is what I felt. I was like, I'm just going to go with what I know, and that's what
I'm
I
gonna
did.
go.
And
I need to find a sponsor for my 210.
there you go.
I'm not looking forward to buying substrate for that if I decided to go with something expensive.
Yeah. So Silver Creek mentioned, changing it because of catching fish and fry, and that's definitely a factor with your substrate. What you're going to have in the tank. And then Jimmy P, thanking us for the stream. Thank you for coming by. And Sean is an awesome fish keeper. I am supposed to be working on a video that should have been out earlier, but it's funny. I'm gonna say this before we go. In the video that you did where I was over at your house and you let me kind of talk about the channel for a minute, I talked about the 30 videos in 30 days. I haven't done it since.
I noticed that.
And I was like, oh no. So
I was like, don't
honestly,
do that this summer. And you're like, oh.
yeah.
Stopped.
Right. So it was just stretching me to try and do things. But what I found was with family life and everything else, it was just too hard. Even just doing, I don't know. I couldn't just record something off the cuff and put it out there. It's just not me. And so I don't know. I may try it again. Right now, I'm definitely going to be a video a week on top of the live stream is what I'm shooting for. I think that's more manageable.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I've got that video to do where I get to look around your tanks, and I can't wait to share that. I've been working on it. But thank you everyone for coming to the live stream. I know we've gone over. I don't know who's live streaming right now. I'm sorry to them that we went over. I hope you all will check them out. But Sean, thank you for hanging out with me tonight and talking about dirt.
Thanks for having me over, Mitch. I really appreciate it.
And I know the link to Sean's channel is in the chat a few times. I've seen it. If you're not a subscriber, I personally love his channel. It's one of the first channels that I followed and would watch videos on a regular basis. I love how creative you are. I told you this in person not long ago. I really enjoy it. When you were talking about filming the intro, I was like, oh, I get to do a pecktec intro. So that was a lot of fun. And thank you, everyone. Please like, subscribe, and check out the videos.
Bye.
We'll see you. Stay scruffy.